I've always liked driving at night. There's something peaceful about it, the hum of the engine, empty highways, the way the world gets quiet. No honking, no rush, just you, the road, and whatever's lurking in the dark. I used to work a late shift at a warehouse just outside Albuquerque, New Mexico. Most nights, I'd get off around 12:30 a.m. Sometimes later if we had a big shipment. The drive home was a little over an hour, mostly highway, cutting through some rural areas. I knew the roads like the back of my hand, or at least, I thought I did. One Friday night last summer, I left work just before 1 a.m. I was exhausted and in a rush to get home. My girlfriend had texted me, asking if I could pick up some stuff from her place on the way. Normally, I'd take the main interstate, but I remembered a back road that shaved about 15 minutes off the drive. It was a 2-lane highway through some desert backcountry. Not the safest at night, but it was quiet, and I figured I'd be fine. I wasn't. About 20 minutes in, I realized I hadn't seen another car for miles. No lights in either direction, just me, my headlights, and the endless dark. It was a cloudless night, but the moon was low, barely lighting anything beyond the shoulder. I turned the music down and rolled the window open a bit. The desert air was cool, dry. Somewhere out there, a coyote howled. It should have felt peaceful, but instead, I started feeling watched. I know that sounds weird. It's not like I saw anything, just this sense, like something was just off. I was about to chalk it up to sleep deprivation when I saw the flashing lights. A car was pulled off to the right shoulder, hazard lights blinking. An older sedan, maybe a late 90s model, hood up. Someone was standing beside it, waving a small flashlight. At first, I drove past, not fast, maybe 20 miles per hour, but I slowed down just enough to get a good look. The man looked to be in his 40s or 50s, wearing a jacket with a hoodie underneath. Nothing too strange about it, but he didn't look desperate, not panicked, just still. His flashlight beam was pointed low, more like he was waiting than signaling for help. I kept driving, and then I felt it, that pang of guilt. What if he really needed help? It was late, cold, no cell service out here. I'd feel like a total ass if I heard on the news later that someone froze to death on Route 509. So I turned around. The road was empty, pitch black. My tires crunched over gravel as I made a slow U-turn and rolled back toward the guy. He hadn't moved much. As I approached, I rolled down the passenger window and leaned across. "You good, man?" He stepped forward a bit. His face was partially in shadow, but I could make out stubble and tired eyes. He looked rough, like he'd been out there a while. "Battery's dead," he said, voice low but steady. "Been trying to flag someone down for an hour. Think you could give me a ride to the next gas station?" I hesitated. Something about the way he said it felt rehearsed, too calm. Still, I nodded. Yeah, hop in. I think there's a 24-hour stop about 10 miles up." He didn't smile, just grabbed a backpack from his front seat, shut his hood, and walked around to the passenger side. As he got in, I caught a whiff of something like oil, sweat, and something else I couldn't place. Not necessarily foul, but not clean either. He didn't say much after that, just buckled in, eyes fixed straight ahead. I tried to make small talk, asked where he was headed, if he was local, but he gave short answers. "Just passing through. Used to live around here. Long story." After a few minutes of silence, I noticed he kept glancing into the side mirror, not at the road, at the dark behind us, like he was expecting something to follow. Then he said something weird. "You always stop for strangers?" I forced a laugh, only when I feel lucky. He didn't laugh, just turned his head slowly toward me and said, dead serious, "Hope your luck holds out." This story seems to be getting scarier, doesn't it? If you want more stories like this, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. This helps create even more scary for you. I kept my eyes on the road, trying to push down the uneasy feeling creeping up on me. It wasn't like I had a bad feeling about the guy, but something about the way he was acting kept triggering this little voice in the back of my head. Maybe it was the fact that he never seemed to relax. His eyes kept flicking back to the rearview mirror, like he was waiting for something. But what? The road stretched on, empty and straight. I kept glancing over at him, wondering if I'd see some sign of appreciation for the ride. But nothing. It was like he was either too tired or too deep in his thoughts to care. "Where exactly are we going?" I asked, trying to make conversation. "I mean, I know there's a gas station up ahead, but it's been a while since I've driven out here. I've been working nights at the warehouse." He nodded slightly, but his eyes remained on the dark highway ahead. "Just drive straight," he said, almost absent-mindedly. "You'll see it soon enough." I tried to shrug off the strange vibe. Maybe he was just the quiet type, I thought. Some people get like that when they've been stranded for a while. But the more I drove, the more my skin started to crawl. I noticed, then, that his hands were in his lap, fidgeting with something I couldn't make out. His thumb twitched nervously. I wasn't sure if I was imagining it, but it looked like he was gripping something tightly. Maybe a tool, maybe a weapon. I couldn't tell. I tried not to stare, but my curiosity got the better of me. "You okay?" I asked again, trying to keep the tone light. He didn't answer right away. Then, after a long pause, he spoke, his voice lower than before, almost like he was talking to himself. "I guess you don't realize how fragile life really is until you're out here, in the middle of nowhere, just waiting for a car to come by. It's like anything could happen, and no one would know." The words stuck with me, a little too heavy for a random conversation. I had no idea what he meant, but it sounded like something was bothering him. I was about to ask what he meant when I saw it, a flicker of light in the distance. At first, I thought it was just the glare from my headlights on the asphalt. But no, the light was getting bigger. "Looks like we're almost there," I said, pointing ahead. "At the station?" He didn't respond, just kept staring straight ahead, his face almost unreadable in the dim glow of the dashboard. I slowed down as we approached, and sure enough, there it was, a small, rundown gas station with a neon sign that buzzed and flickered in the wind. There were no other cars around, not a single light on the forecourt except the one above the pumps. I pulled in, stopping just short of the pumps. It was completely silent. The only sound was the faint rustling of the desert wind. I turned off the engine and looked over at him. "Well, here we are." He didn't move for a second, just stared at the station like he was analyzing it. Finally, he turned to me with a half smile. "Thanks for the ride. I'll be on my way now." I was a little confused. "Wait. What? Aren't you going to get gas?" He didn't seem to hear me. He opened the door and stepped out, slamming it shut behind him. I watched as he walked toward the dim light of the station, his figure swallowed by the shadows. For a moment, I sat there, unsure of what to do. Was that it? Was he just going to leave without saying anything else? Should I have offered to help more? I couldn't help but feel strange. There was something unsettling about how fast he'd gotten out of the car. As I sat there, my thoughts began to drift, but before I could make up my mind, I saw him turn around. He was standing at the corner of the building, his figure just barely visible in the dark. "Hey," I called out, feeling a sudden urge to ask if everything was okay. "Do you need a hand with anything?" "I can." That's when I saw it. Something glinted in his hand. A knife. At first, I thought it was just the way the light caught something metallic. But no, it was definitely a knife. He wasn't holding it at his side, either. He had it raised in front of him, the blade catching the dim glow from the station. I froze. He was watching me, not in a panicked, desperate way, but like he was waiting for something, waiting for me to make the next move. Without thinking, I started the car back up, my heart pounding in my chest. As I shifted into gear, I looked into the rearview mirror, hoping he'd just walk away, hoping it was all in my head. But as I pulled out of the station, I saw him in the mirror. He was still standing there, unmoving. I didn't look back again. I didn't look back. I couldn't. My hands were sweating as I gripped the wheel, my knuckles white under the pressure. My mind was racing, and all I could think was, what the hell just happened? I drove faster than I should have, but I didn't care. The road stretched out before me, empty and silent, just as it had been earlier, but this time, The quiet was different. It felt wrong, like the world was holding its breath, waiting for something. I kept glancing into the rearview mirror, half expecting to see headlights, to see him still standing at the station, still watching, but nothing, just the stretch of black road behind me. I told myself it was nothing. He probably just needed a moment to gather himself, or maybe he was waiting for me to leave before he did whatever it was he was going to do. Maybe it wasn't a knife after all. Maybe I was just paranoid. I'd been on edge all week. But the more I drove, the more uneasy I felt. The silence around me was suffocating, and the only sound was the low hum of the tires on the asphalt. I had this gnawing feeling at the back of my mind that I wasn't alone out here, like someone, or something, was watching me from the shadows. That's when I noticed it, 2 sets of headlights in the distance, coming up fast. I didn't think much of it at first. There were plenty of trucks and late-night drivers on this stretch of highway, but as they got closer, I noticed something strange. The lights weren't just passing by, they were following me. I could feel my heart rate spike. I glanced at my rearview mirror. The headlights were closer now, almost tailing me, and then I saw it, the shadow of a car, just barely visible behind me. My pulse quickened. No, it couldn't be, not him. I sped up, my foot pressed harder on the gas pedal as I tried to put some distance between me and whatever or whoever was behind me, but it didn't matter. The car behind me matched my speed, staying just far enough back that I couldn't make out any details, but close enough to make my stomach twist in knots. I had a sudden urge to take the next exit, to leave the highway and disappear into the maze of side roads, but the exit was miles away, and if this guy was following me, there was no way I could outrun him. My mind raced. I thought about pulling over again, but I quickly dismissed it. The thought of stopping out here, alone, with no one around, terrified me. I tried to shake off the feeling of panic, but it was like the air around me had thickened. I could hear my own breath now, quick, shallow, matching the pounding of my heart. Then, just as I thought I was losing my mind, I heard it, the engine, faint at first, then louder, like it was coming from right behind me, the sound of tires on asphalt, the low growl of a motor. It was unmistakable. I glanced in the side mirror, just in time to see the shadowy shape of the car in my blind spot. It was so close now, I could barely see the road ahead without the reflection of its headlights blinding me. I swerved slightly to the left to avoid the glare, but as I did, the car followed me. It was no coincidence. This was no random driver. This was the same damn car from the gas station. I couldn't breathe. My mind went blank, and I slammed my foot on the gas, the engine roaring in protest as I tried to speed away. The car behind me stayed glued to my rear bumper, like it was playing some sick game of cat and mouse. I glanced down at the speedometer, almost 100 miles per hour. The desert landscape blurred around me, the road snaking out like some twisted labyrinth. There was no way I could keep this up. My car was starting to shake, the tires screeching as I tried to maintain control. I needed to get off this road, anywhere. And then, just as quickly as it had started, the car behind me made its move. It swerved to the left, cutting me off. I slammed on the brakes, barely avoiding a collision. My heart lurched in my chest as I skidded to the side of the road, tires grinding against gravel. I slammed the car into park, adrenaline flooding my veins, making my hands shake uncontrollably on the steering wheel. The other car came to a stop just a few feet away, its headlights blinding me, and I froze. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at the lights, waiting for something, anything, to happen. Then the engine cut off. The silence was deafening. My breath was coming in ragged gasps as I strained to see through the glare. The figure inside the car didn't move, didn't make a sound. I felt a cold sweat break out across my forehead, my hands slick on the wheel. I had no idea what to do. I was trapped out here, with no one else around. No help, no backup, just me and this guy, whoever he was, in the middle of nowhere. I didn't know what to think, what to feel. All I knew was that I wasn't about to wait around to find out what he was planning. So, with one last glance at the car behind me, I threw the car into drive and floored it. I heard the screech of tires as I sped away, Heart pounding, the sound of my engine roaring in my ears. I didn't care where I was going anymore, as long as it was away from him, away from the man in the dark. I kept my eyes on the road ahead, ignoring the rearview mirror. The headlights were gone. He wasn't following me anymore. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I hadn't gotten away. Not really. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was still out there, waiting for me, watching me. I drove without looking back. The road ahead was empty, nothing but endless stretches of asphalt and the occasional dip in the horizon. But the further I went, the more I felt like something was wrong, like the air had changed, like I wasn't alone anymore. I didn't stop, not once. I didn't dare. I drove through the night, my hands stiff on the wheel, eyes darting from the road to the rearview mirror every few seconds. I kept hoping I'd see something, anything, that would make sense of what had just happened, but nothing ever did. By the time I hit the outskirts of town, the sun was starting to rise, casting a dim orange glow over the desert. The bright light of day should have made me feel safe, but I didn't. I felt more exposed than ever, and then, just as I was beginning to think the nightmare was over, I saw it. There, in the rearview mirror, a car. I couldn't believe it, not again, but there it was, unmistakable, its headlights reflecting in the mirror, keeping pace with me, just like before. The same damn car. I slammed on the brakes, heart racing in my chest, but when I looked back, the car was gone, just gone, no trace of it, no headlights, no shadow, nothing. I pulled over to the shoulder, trying to calm my breathing. I had to be seeing things. I was exhausted, running on adrenaline and sheer panic. The night had stretched on far too long, and I hadn't slept in over 24 hours. Maybe I was imagining it, maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew I wasn't wrong. I didn't want to stop, I didn't want to look back, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being hunted. I was so tired, my eyes gritty with fatigue, but I forced myself to keep going, praying that whatever this was, it would end soon. I reached my apartment just as the sun was fully up. I didn't know what time it was, but I didn't care. I just wanted to collapse into bed and forget everything. The man, the car, the feeling of being stalked like prey. I parked and stumbled up the stairs to my door, but just as I was about to unlock it, I heard it. A car. The sound of an engine revving up in the distance, cutting through the quiet morning air. I froze, my blood ran cold. It couldn't be, not here, not now. I whipped my head around, but all I could see were rows of cars parked in the lot, and the road beyond. But there, at the far end of the lot, I could make out a figure. It was the same man, the same guy who had gotten into my car the night before, standing there, just staring at me. He wasn't moving, just watching me with that eerie, emotionless expression. My heart pounded in my chest as I fumbled with my keys, panic rising in my throat. I didn't know how he'd followed me here, but there was no denying it anymore. He had been watching me the entire time. The car, the following, he had been there the whole time. I tried to tell myself it was all a coincidence, but I knew deep down that it wasn't. I was no longer in control. He was playing a game, and I was just the pawn. With shaking hands, I finally got the door open and slammed it shut behind me. I leaned against the wall, my head spinning. My body was on autopilot, moving through the motions, but my mind was still racing. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to trust. I didn't know how long I could keep running, but it was clear now that I wasn't safe. I'd let a stranger into my car, and now I was paying for it. I glanced out the window, praying to see him gone, hoping it was just a bad dream. But no, he was still there, still standing in the parking lot, watching. I tried to calm down, but the panic was rising, choking me, suffocating me. I thought about calling the police, but what would I tell them? That a man in a car had been following me all night? That he was standing in the parking lot, staring at me like a predator? They'd think I was crazy. I grabbed my phone anyway, dialing the number for the local police department, but as the phone rang, I heard a knock at my door. I froze. I couldn't move, my throat closed up, I couldn't breathe. I didn't open the door, I didn't answer. The knock came again, harder this time, a long, deliberate thud, and then, just as I was about to say anything, a voice came from the other side. "Hey, man, you forgot something." It was his voice, the man from last night. I pressed my back against the door, my heart hammering in my chest. My legs felt like they were made of stone, frozen in place. "You left your keys in the car," the voice said, eerily calm. "You might want to grab them before someone else does." I didn't know what he meant by that. I didn't care. All I knew was that he was standing on the other side of my door, and I was trapped. The knock came again, harder this time, shaking the door in its frame. My breath caught in my throat, and I pressed myself back against the wall, trying to steady my heartbeat, but it was impossible. The pounding in my chest was deafening. My legs wouldn't move. My arms were numb. My mind was screaming at me to do something, but I couldn't. "Hey," the man's voice called through the door again, his tone still unnervingly calm. "You still there? I'm just trying to return your things." "Things?" I swallowed hard, trying to force some sense back into my head. There had to be a reason for all this. There had to be. Maybe he wasn't really a threat. Maybe he wasn't the man I thought he was. Maybe he was just confused. Maybe he was just someone who wanted help. But I knew deep down that wasn't true. This wasn't about help. It never was. I slowly crept over to the peephole, my hands trembling, and pressed my eye against it. My heart skipped a beat. There he was, standing in front of my door. But now, he wasn't alone. Two other figures were standing next to him, partially hidden in the shadows, their faces hard to make out. I could tell they weren't just random strangers, though. They were his partners, his team. My stomach twisted in knots as I realized what was happening. This wasn't just a weird coincidence anymore. This wasn't just some random guy I had picked up. He had been following me the whole time. I backed away from the door, my thoughts spiraling out of control. How had they found me? What did they want? How long had they been watching me? I grabbed my phone, my fingers shaking as I dialed the police. I needed to tell someone, anyone, but as the phone rang, I heard something else, a sound coming from the hallway outside my apartment. The floor creaked under heavy footsteps. Someone was walking closer. I didn't have time to think. My mind was spinning, and panic was clouding my judgment. I had no idea how I'd gotten into this situation, but I knew I had to act fast. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a broken lamp, and held it in front of me like a weapon. My breath was shallow, my head dizzy with fear. I didn't know if I could take them on. I didn't know if I could even escape. The footsteps were louder now. They were at my door. I pulled the lamp back, ready to swing if they tried to break in, but just as I prepared for the worst, the door rattled. A single, sharp thud echoed through the room. "Don't do this," the man's voice called through the door. "We just need you to cooperate. You don't want to make this harder." Cooperate with what? I didn't know. I didn't understand. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but I couldn't find my voice. It was all so overwhelming. The tension, the fear, the uncertainty. I wasn't sure what I was going to do when I heard the next voice, a different one, coming from the hallway. "Do you really think you can outrun us?" It was a woman's voice this time, cold and steady, like she'd said this before. "You're not getting out of here. Not now. Not after everything." Everything? I didn't know what she was talking about, but the fear in her voice told me I was in deeper than I had ever imagined. I stepped back, clutching the lamp in my hands as the door handle turned slowly. Suddenly, the door burst open, but it wasn't the man from last night who stepped inside. It was the woman, the one with the cold voice. She was tall, with sharp features and dark eyes that locked onto mine with a predatory intensity. Her expression didn't change as she scanned me, sizing me up like I was some sort of prize. The two other figures followed her in, standing in the doorway with unreadable faces. I took a step back, my heart pounding in my chest. I was cornered. "What do you want from me?" I finally found my voice, hoarse and shaky. "What is all of this? Why are you following me?" The woman didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked to the man, the one I had picked up on the side of the road. He stood in the back of the room, his face still hidden in the shadows, but I could see the faint outline of a smirk on his lips. "It's not about you, kid," the woman finally said. Her voice was a strange mix of sympathy and menace. "It's about what you saw, what you were never supposed to see." "What are you talking about?" I choked out, the terror creeping up my spine, making my knees weak. She stepped closer, her heels clicking on the floor. "You think you just picked up some random stranger, don't you? You think this is all just some strange coincidence. But no, you've been watched for a while now. Ever since you saw us, saw them." The realization hit me like a slap to the face. "Back at the gas station," I whispered, piecing it all together. "That wasn't a random stop. You knew I was coming." The woman's eyes glinted. "Smart, now you're starting to get it." And then it all came rushing back. The strange, out-of-place feeling when I saw the man at the station, the way he'd acted like he was waiting for something, and the sense that I was being watched. "You were never meant to get involved," she said coldly. "But now that you have, well, now you're a part of something bigger, something much bigger than you." I took a step back, trying to make sense of it all. Who were these people? What were they after? Before I could respond, the man, the one who'd been following me all night, finally stepped forward from the shadows. His eyes locked onto mine, and in that moment, I understood. They weren't after me. They were after something else. Something I had accidentally seen. Something I wasn't supposed to know. He smirked. "Welcome to the real world, kid." And with that, everything went black. Don't forget to like, comment your thoughts on this terrifying story, and subscribe for more spine-chilling horror tales.